You've probably seen the videos, the ones promising that if you just download the right combination of apps, your homework will basically do itself. Look, AI is a baseline expectation in every high school and college in the US right now, but the idea that throwing an algorithm at your coursework will magically cut your study time in half is a trap. You're told you need the ultimate, all-inclusive stack. You need ChatGPT for ideas, Notion for notes, Perplexity for research, Canva for slides, Otter for lectures, Grammarly for writing, and Quizlet to memorize it all. But here is the reality side of this matrix. When you try to juggle all 7 simultaneously, you hit a massive context switching penalty. The time you save generating a summary is completely wiped out by the time you spend exporting, copying, formatting, and dragging that data between disconnected interfaces. And that chaos isn't cheap. Once you start stacking premium subscriptions to bypass free tier limits, you're suddenly looking at $80 a month just to maintain a system that's actually slowing you down. It's time to drop the blanket top 7 lists. We need to look at what these tools actually cost you in terms of effort, evaluate the specific trade-offs of each one, and measure the actual learning you get out of them. The students actually protecting their GPA aren't hoarding apps. They surgically select a lean setup that targets their exact weaknesses without outsourcing their intellect. Let's look at this blank quadrant chart. We are going to map out these tools by measuring the effort required to implement them on the x-axis against the depth of learning you actually achieve on the y-axis. Start with ChatGPT. Feed it a prompt and you instantly get a broad outline. It sits here: low effort, moderate learning. Notice the warning icon. Due to AI hallucinations and generic tone, it requires heavy manual verification, so you aren't turning in fiction. Compare that to Perplexity AI. Query it and it scans databases to deliver answers with real, clickable citations. That places it here: moderate effort, high learning. The catch? It's strictly for information retrieval. For creative brainstorming or debugging code, it won't help much. Relying on ChatGPT for hard facts puts your academic credibility on the line, while relying on Perplexity for creative ideation will leave you stuck. You have to match the tool to your specific requirement for accuracy. There is a hidden cost to capturing every single word your professor says, and it usually starts in a lecture hall. A tool like Otter AI is incredibly efficient. It can transcribe a rambling 90-minute lecture into a fully searchable, cleanly summarized text document by the time you walk out the door. But look at where it lands on our chart. Very low effort, very low learning. When you know an app is capturing everything, you tune out. You bypass the cognitive act of active listening, which wrecks your long-term retention. Then consider Notion AI. It pulls your syllabi, reading lists, and raw notes into a massive automated task management database. The trap is here in the very high effort quadrant. Setting up those interconnected workflows requires a massive upfront time investment. It leads straight into productive procrastination. You spend 3 hours tweaking tags, color-coding your workflow, and organizing your study system without actually studying a single thing. Having a flawless, centralized database only matters if you actually review the information inside it. Capture tools are convenient, but they cannot replace the neurological process of paying attention. When it comes to actually producing the work, Grammarly is the standard. You drop in a rough draft, and it polishes your syntax until the grammar is flawless and the tone sounds purely academic. But over-relying on that polish scrubs away your authentic voice. Worse, heavy AI rewrites put you at serious risk of triggering false positives on highly sensitive university AI detectors. For exam prep, Quizlet AI feels like a shortcut. Paste in lecture notes, and it instantly auto-generates flashcards. Here's the biological flaw. The friction of deciding what's important enough to write down is where half of learning happens. Skip encoding, and information won't stick. Finally, Canva AI lets you type a few sentences and generate a visually stunning, perfectly formatted slide deck in minutes. The danger here is using aesthetic as a crutch. Beautiful visuals frequently mask a completely shallow, under-researched understanding of the presentation topic. These output tools provide a very convincing illusion of competence. But if your goal is actual academic growth, completely frictionless production is the enemy of deep memory encoding. So, looking at this decision tree, it's clear you need to reject the bloated 7-tool setup. Instead, identify your primary academic bottleneck and commit to a lean 2 or 3 app stack. If your bottleneck is heavy reading and writing synthesis, you need the humanities and research stack. Pair Perplexity for bulletproof, cited evidence, and use Grammarly strictly for final syntax polish. If you are dealing with formula recall and exact definitions, look at the STEM and memorization stack. Use ChatGPT to break down complex code or concepts into plain English, and manually build your own spaced repetition decks in Quizlet. And if your biggest struggle is just keeping track of assignments, build the executive stack. Use Otter AI to cache specific verbal instructions you might miss, and feed them into a heavily simplified Notion database to track your deadlines. The technology isn't going away, but navigating this era requires a strict personal rule. You have to clearly separate the tools that do the thinking, for you, from the tools that simply organize your thinking. Giving a prompt to generate an entire essay from scratch crosses the line into academic dishonesty, but inputting your own original rough notes to generate a customized study schedule, that is intelligent leverage. Choose your specific workflow. Stop paying premium fees for features that distract you. Keep your stack lean and fiercely protect your own ability to think.